Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence and welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate your time and your viewership. It means a lot. So the year 2021, we're only in the month of March, but it's been such a busy year for designer companies. As a matter of fact, I have purchased close to 30 brand new 2021 designer fragrance releases, 8 of them being from the company Zara. But in any case, I'm going to tell you what my top 10 are. I don't necessarily love them all, but the ones that are in the top 3, I would say I really love. So I'm very excited to give you my top 10, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin my top 10 video on my favorite designer fragrance releases for the year 2021, I know we're still only in the month of March, but I actually plan on making another video a few months down the line just to see if my opinions have changed on any of these. I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance related content, if you like top 10 videos just like this, but also giveaways, unboxings, fragrance reviews, and more, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner, and of course, while you're at it, please make sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell icon. So like I said, 2021 has already been such a busy year. I actually have a note in my phone that lists all of the fragrances that came out in 2021, and whenever I hear about a brand new fragrance, I go online right away and I purchase it, and I spend a little bit of time so that I can put out my review for my subscribers who rely on a lot of the insight of fragrance reviewers here on YouTube to sort of guide them in the right direction, let them know what the fragrance smells like, so on and so forth. So I bought a lot of fragrances this year already. And so there are a few that I own that did not make the list. One of them being Now Them by Tommy Hilfiger. Another one being Born in Roma Yellow Dream by Valentino. I also bought Zara Tokyo, Zara Actin Out, Zara Dark Wash, a lot of fragrances. So you might see some of them are not in this list, and that's because I personally didn't feel as though they deserve to be in the top 10. You know, not everything is going to be a winner, but there are some fragrances that I am quite fond of, and so I want to sort of archive what my favorites were as of March of 2021. So let's go ahead and start with the number 10, and this one is called Gucci Guilty Love Edition. Now, I am not in love with this fragrance. This one actually reminds me very much so of the original Gucci Guilty, and so my criticism on this fragrance would be just that. I wish they had done things a little bit differently. I like the release that came out last year. I found it to be very bright and effervescent. This one kind of has like that musky, clean, soapy, contemporary lavender thing that's also going on in the original with the abundance of citrus in the opening. And so this is going to be a very high compliment factor sort of a fragrance, but just keep in mind that if you have the original Gucci Guilty or even Gucci Guilty Black, I think this one might be a bit of a redundant purchase for you, but nevertheless, I do find it to be a very pleasant smell, but of course it's resting at the number 10 spot, and so it's not in the top 5 for a reason, right? The next one is Armani Code Eau de Parfum. Now, the reason this is a little bit lower on the list is because this is very similar to the original Armani Code, so I'm also thinking about the uniqueness and the originality, and this one is a slightly improved version in terms of the performance category. So I know one thing to be said about a lot of designer fragrances is if it's been on the market for 10-15 years, chances are it's been reformulated along the way. And so we see a lot of companies doing this, right? Like Versace Eros Eau de Parfum is probably a stronger version to the Eau de Toilette, and that has certainly been my experience. And we see this with a lot of fragrances as they're being released. I kind of have the hunch or the suspicion that that's what's happening here, is that perhaps with the Eau de Toilette, you know, maybe the performance wasn't as great. And so here we vamped it up a little bit, you know, maybe only a couple hours, but albeit that, you know, it is improved performance. So just keep that in mind. The next fragrance that I want to talk about is by Abercrombie and Fitch, and this one is called Fierce Night. Now, in terms of the night designation, I didn't really find this one to be much darker in that regard. You know, you think of night, you think of something that's going to be deeper, darker, more sensual, so on and so forth. But this one almost had like some icy component about it. Not metallic, but icy. Almost in the sense that there might have been like some aromatic notes or ginger or some very bright citrusy notes. And so I think this could have been called Fierce Ice instead of Fierce Night, and I would have been just as convinced. But I do find that it is a nice change of pace from the original, which was this lavender musk combination. Obviously, it's like the you know, typical mall scent, or the iconic mall scent, I should say, right? But this one is very well done, I think, in terms of utilizing the DNA of the original, but putting a subtle twist on it to sort of bring it in a different direction that is noticeable, but still honoring the roots of the original. That's what I would say about this one. The next one that I want to talk about is by Emporio Armani, and it's Stronger With You. Absolutely. So this fragrance here, I do perceive to be darker than Stronger With You. Obviously, we've had a couple different flankers along the way. We've had the intense version, if I'm not mistaken. There's also Freeze, which I've reviewed on my channel. But the thing about this one is that it's a little bit warmer, it's a little bit darker. And I think for that reason, if you are a fan of the original, but perhaps it was a little bit too much on the vanilla tonka bean side, you just wanted some elements in there to darken it up, I do certainly think like that is being accomplished with this fragrance. The next fragrance here by the company Ferragamo is their leather offering. And so this one is actually really interesting because it opens up with this fruity apple leather sort of a vibe that for a split second reminded me of Ombre Leather by Tom Ford. And so I was like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. Like Ferragamo took, you know, the original Uomo and the, or not Ferragamo Uomo, but the original Ferragamo for Men, which was released fairly recently, but they created a leather flanker out of it, right? And so I find that that harmony actually works really well. And so the leather added to the original DNA, which if my memory is correct, it was more of like a violet sort of a fragrance. But here they have that fruity nuance. They also have the leather in here. Actually really well done. And what I can say is that, you know, this smells similar to the original. This smells similar to the original. This is a very subtle twist of the original. This one actually smelled different. And so I'm happy that they're going in a direction that's a little bit more different from, you know, some of their previous releases. And we always seek that, right? We want something that's a nice change of pace, something that's going to keep us interested and on our toes. So the next one, I actually said the name of it earlier on in this video. This one by Zara is called Actin Out. So I looked it up online and somebody had compared this one to Solo Lueve Cedro. And it does have cedar wood. It has a lot of citrus in here. It has some spices, I believe mandarin orange in the opening as well. But I get a note that's not listed in the note breakdown, and that's ginger. It has this very sparkling quality in the opening that I really, really enjoy. And so it's a very bright, fresh, cedarwood, spicy kind of a fragrance. Obviously, my criticism for Zara fragrances has always been the same. They need to last longer. Something needs to be done where the performance of the fragrances is increased. But for $17.90 for a 100 milliliter bottle, you really can't go wrong. And it is one of these fragrances where I will be finding myself reapplying throughout the day. And so just keep that in mind. But this one is really, really good. And I purchased a bunch of Zara fragrances this year. And this is probably my favorite of them all. The next fragrance that I want to talk about, and I kind of feel a little guilty that it's not in the top 3. This one by Tom Ford is Costa Azzurra. Now, the reason why this is at the spot that it's currently at is because this is not a new fragrance, right? We've seen or smelled Costa Azzurra in the private blend, and also that fragrance kind of reminded me of Crave by Calvin Klein. And so when I think about it in terms of like the uniqueness and the originality, obviously I love this fragrance. I think they should have put it in a blue bottle too. Sorry for that critique there, but I love this fragrance. I really, really do. It happens to be one of my favorite smells, and I definitely look forward to wearing this one in the summertime as well. And because of the fact that it reminds me of Calvin Klein Crave, it has this nostalgic factor about it that I really enjoy. But I do find that in terms of it being a 2021 release, It's not really a 2021 release just because Costa Azzurra has been out for so many years now, but I love the smell. I really, really do enjoy this one. And obviously I enjoy the smell of this one more than all of these other fragrances before it. Now, the next one on this list, we're getting into the top 3 now. So Costa Azzurra is resting at the number 4 spot. Number 3 is an awesome fragrance. I really was not expecting this. This one by Paco Rabanne is Invictus Victory. This is Paco Rabanne's Invictus with chocolate. It is a really interesting fragrance. There's a little bit of a powdery quality, and that's because it's not like a pure chocolate. It's more of a cocoa vibe that you're going to get from it. It kind of leans in the direction of like a Bad Boy by Carolina Herrera. So if you're familiar with that peppery, chocolatey vibe that Bad Boy gives off, you're going to get something similar here. But I like how they sort of took it away from that eugenol heavy tonka bean base that is found in pretty much all of the Invictus fragrances. And then we're also seeing that in some of the more recent ones like Invictus Legend, it's still in there and they've just made it stronger. And so this is the one where it's like, let's not manipulate the ingredients that are already in the blend, but let's add new ingredients to the blend. Let's try to take it down a different path or a different trajectory. And that's what I really appreciate about this fragrance. And I would say it's one of the best releases of 2021 so far. I look forward to it becoming a little bit more widely available. I've been smelling it every single day since I purchased it. Even shared a decant with my good friend Chris from the channel Casual Fragrances. I hope he likes it as well. Now, the number 2 fragrance on this list, I like for the fact that whenever brands put out a brand new fragrance, right, a standalone release, I applaud them, because many times what we're seeing is a flanker, 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 and we get tired of it, right? So whenever brands put out a brand new fragrance, I usually applaud them and commend them, and it keeps me very interested. Number 2 is H24 by Hermes. And this is a very bright, fresh, aromatic, sort of a minty, kind of sweet, not too sweet. It's more on the herbal side, sort of a fragrance that kind of alludes to Jean-Claude Ellena's style, even though the perfumer for this one is Christine Nagel. And so if you're familiar with a lot of the Un Jardin fragrances, you're going to get something similar in this fragrance. Now, of course, it doesn't smell explicitly like any of the Un Jardin fragrances, but it kind of has that fresh, earthy garden kind of a quality. And so I'm really enjoying it. The clary sage that's in there. There's also the sclerine molecule, which is creating like this metallic vibe about it too. And so it's a really interesting composition, and my wife loves it. And so that is a bonus, right? It's very tough for her to, like, she dislikes 90% of my collection. So when I find a fragrance that she actually enjoys, you know, I wear it a lot. And I've actually been wearing this one a lot. You can tell there's about 7 mLs missing from it or something like that. And now the number 1 fragrance on my favorite release so far of 2021, and like I mentioned, I have so many. Born in Roma Yellow Dream did not make this list. Tommy Now Them did not make this list. The new Hugo Boss did not make this list. My favorite fragrance of 2021 is such an amazing fragrance composed by Jean-Christophe Hérault. And I paid pretty much $200 for this one because I had it shipped from the UK, and I paid like over $40 in shipping, but it is so worth it, and I will never be without a bottle of this in my collection. I really, really do love this smell. This one by Dolce & Gabbana is called The One Luminous Night. It is such an amazing fragrance. You have this basil and geranium thing going on in the opening. It's minty, it's intriguing, it adds that luminous quality to it because of that minty presence. And then as you give it a chance to dry down, there's the sweetness of dates that starts to come through. Very exotic, very spellbinding. And then in the base, you have sandalwood, incense, amber. You have this resinous component as well. There's also a lot of sweetness in here too. And in my review, I'm not sure which video I'm publishing first, but in my review, I also compare it to the smell of 1 Million, but a really sophisticated, mature, and exotic version of 1 Million by Paco Rabanne. It has a slight touch of smokiness about it. It's such an amazing fragrance. And honestly, I have smelled Royal Night, Mysterious Night. Obviously, I own the original, the Intense, the Eau de Parfum version as well, and this I think is my favorite. It has this complexity about it. It's an amazing fragrance. I am hoping that despite the fact that it is an exclusive edition, that it becomes more widely available, because I think more people ought to get their nose on this one. So there you have it, ladies and gents. Thank you so much for watching me today. I really do appreciate your viewership and your time. It means the world to me. These have been my top 10 favorite releases of 2021 so far. I'm very curious to know what have been your favorite releases of 2021 so far. It could be designer or niche. It could be something that I didn't list in this video. Leave a comment down below. I always love the interaction. And also, if you are new to this channel and you took something of value from this video, I would really appreciate it if you would support this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, please make sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell. Thanks again for watching. I love you all, and we'll see you soon. Bye.